The 105th episode of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
It's not about you. It's about the name in front of your jersey.
And ready on his second attempt. That is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Mark. Pushes it here, Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get through. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Shot done. Oklahoma timeout. The game is over. The game is over. Carolina has up number 1, Oklahoma.
With 20 seconds left to play. Go back to Michael Jordan. Jumper right on the left. Good. 63-62. 13, 12, 11. Georgetown, 1 timeout. Brent Brown looking. Oh, way to win it. 35. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship.
Rebounded by Weber. Michigan out of timeout. Weber front court. Carroll with foul. He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul. Brown gets it into Weber. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short. Rebounded. It's over. Carolina has won the national championship. How about them Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
That's it! Make room for 2017. The Tar Heels are the national daggum champions.
That's what it's all about right there. That's on the floor. That's on your shirt. That's in your heart. That's why we're all here.
This is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Joshua Marlowe. Everybody, can welcome you into another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. We've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about on this edition as we look back at the 94-71 win over Miami yesterday in the Smith Center. But before we get started, it would be unprofessional if we did a podcast and not start by addressing the tragedy of the death of Kobe Bryant that happened earlier today. Caught not just me, the basketball community, but a nation and really a world by surprise when we all learned of the tragedy of his death and the death of his daughter. News broke about a little after 1 o'clock or so Eastern time. It's one of those moments that we'll all remember where we were when we learned of the death. I remember where I was when Michael Jackson died. This is on that level for so many reasons. And Anthony, but before we, I'm going to let you comment on this. But before I do that, I wanted to read Kobe Bryant's poem to basketball, considering we are a basketball podcast. And like Kobe was able to do, put everything in perspective as great as anybody as an athlete. So here is his poem to basketball he wrote upon his retirement. Dear basketball, from the moment I started rolling my dad's tube socks and shooting imaginary game-winning shots in the Great Western Forum, I knew one thing was real. I fell in love with you. A love so deep I gave you my all, from my mind and body to my spirit and soul. As a 6-year-old boy deeply in love with you, I never saw the end of the tunnel. I only saw myself running out of one. And so I ran. I ran up and down every court. After every loose ball for you, you asked for my hustle. I gave you my heart. Because it came with so much more. I played through the sweat and hurt, not because challenge called me, but because you called me. I did everything for you because that's what you do when someone makes you feel as alive as you've made me feel. You gave a 6-year-old boy his Laker dream, and I'll always love you for it. But I can't love you obsessively for much longer. This season is all I have left to give. My heart can take the pounding. My heart can handle the grind. But my body knows it's time to say goodbye. And that's okay. I'm ready to let you go. I want you to know now, so we both can savor every moment we have left together, the good and the bad. We have each given each other all that we have. And we both know, no matter what I do next, I'll always be that kid with the rolled up socks, garbage can in the corner, 5 seconds on the clock, Ball in my hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love you always, Kobe. And Anthony, I think that's the best way we can look back at and honor Kobe Bryant, because he was a guy that gave a lot to the game. The game gave Kobe money and fame, and he achieved all what he achieved on the court, the titles, the MVPs, the All-Star appearances. He's a top 5 player in the history of the game of basketball. But he was a guy that, upon his retirement, gave as much back to the game as any former player in the history of the NBA. And his love for basketball is something that, he wasn't our favorite player as a kid, but a lot of my basketball moments as a youth involved Kobe Bryant in a Lakers jersey hitting a baseline fadeaway. My love and passion that I have for this game is a lot because of what Kobe Bryant did at the NBA level. And so when I think about Kobe Bryant as a basketball player, I'm thinking about a guy that loved the game. And I'm also going to think about he was a really good dad. And I really hate it for his 3 daughters he left behind and his wife that they're not going to have their daddy, because he was going to be a good one.
Yeah. I mean, that's about as well said as you could put it. You mentioned, for us, we were always big-time fans of Carmelo Anthony, and him and Kobe had some great battles. And, there was a point where we were not really fans of Kobe Bryant because we wanted Melo to make an NBA Finals so badly. But he's a guy that when he did eventually retire and stepped away, we all kind of knew it was special. But it was just different, because even though there were times where he had that angry mindset when he played the game, and maybe that was some of the things that the people didn't like about him was the way that he acted on the court at times. I loved it because he was the comparisons to Michael Jordan are just unbelievable, because it's true. And the ultimate competitor, a guy that did not like to lose. But you mentioned, especially we started to see it late in his career, where you started to see the softer side of Kobe, where you started to see the guy that was a father. And, that's, I think, the biggest thing that people need to take away from this. As a basketball family, we're all hurting, because this was a guy that was extremely special to us because of what he did for the game that we love, because of what he did for us when we were kids, having something to watch, having a player to emulate. There's countless times that you probably were like me. You would play in the front yard game, and, you would act like you're Kobe Bryant. And, now, of course, this generation wasn't going to do that. This generation was going to be playing as, LeBron or Giannis or whoever, Kawhi Leonard, whatever. But for Kobe, I think the biggest thing that shows just how big of an impact he had was the reactions that we saw from everybody today. And it wasn't just the NBA world that was speaking on it. It was Cassius Winston and Tom Izzo sharing a moment after the Michigan State win on the road at Minnesota, where you can see the moment that Tom Izzo tells Cassius Winston the Kobe news, and just the shock and devastation on the face of both guys. Guys that, may not have even really had strong relationships with Kobe. And that's something even for me, it's kind of weird, because sometimes I think you ask yourself in these moments, why is it so tough when, somebody that we don't even personally know, some of us may not have even personally met, when someone like that passes away. But I think it was just, because we got so accustomed to seeing and hearing about Kobe Bryant. And then, towards the end of his career, he just became such a likable guy on and off the court. Was doing some great stuff for ESPN and, really helping to groom the next generation of players, including his daughter Gianna, which is just an unbelievably horrible situation. On the way to a tournament that was being played at his gym, and he was so happy to be able to coach her. You could tell, and it's just horrible because I've seen a lot of people saying it, and I can't really put it a much better way. He was just entering the second act of his life. The first act was great. The first act was fun. It was something that we'll all remember, but he was looking forward to the second half of his life where he got to spend time helping raise his children and being more hands-on than he was in his playing days. And now, for some reason it's cut short. We don't know why these types of things happen, but I'm one of those ones that believes when it's your time, there's unfortunately nothing that, we can do about it. And it stinks and it hurts. And, that's something that we just, we have to be able to get past and move on. And, Kobe, there was a video that was put out a little while ago that I saw. He said, sometimes you go through rough times, but you just got to put one foot in front of the other and keep it going. And, that's about the best advice that you could get right now, because I think we're all kind of feeling a little bit depressed and everything, and that's okay. It's good to, remember him. How I was told, just a couple of months ago when my grandfather passed away, I think carries over here. Remember the good times with Kobe, and that'll be the memories that you want to keep around. Don't remember this day. Remember all the other days that Kobe was on this earth and what he did to help not only you, but everybody in the basketball community. Unfortunately, it's Mamba's time and Mamba's out, but one day we'll see Kobe once again.
That's just beautifully well said there by my co-host, Anthony Pagnotta. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to a much more lighter, more fun topic to talk about. Carolina in 2020 finally won a basketball game. It took until almost the end of January to finally get that first win of the new year, but they did it, and they did it in convincing fashion, a 94-71 home win over Miami. And it was a game that Carolina controlled from word go. They were dominant in all phases of the game. They shot the ball extremely well. They defended at a better rate. The best way to describe what happened in the game yesterday is one of Foy's favorite sayings, and it's everything looks better when the ball goes in the basket. And that's exactly what happened for a team that was desperate to get a win, no matter the way they got it. I think it helps that you got it playing a very good brand of basketball. And we've harped during the losing streak, the season's not over, but you've got to kick it into gear. You got to get going. And it feels like yesterday they might have finally turned that corner, because they had built in the first half of the Pitt game, the Clemson game for the first 38 minutes. Then you kind of lost whatever you thought you'd built when you went to Pittsburgh and got beat. And then the Virginia Tech game came and went, and you played really well. And you should have won the game, just make enough plays. It feels like now this team is adjusted to playing without Cole Anthony, without Jeremiah Francis at certain times. They seemed a lot more comfortable in their roles, and we don't know what a win could do for their confidence, but who knows? Maybe the season just started yesterday for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, we can hope. That was the best performance that they've had of the season. Without a doubt, in my mind, I think, going back, looking at some of the statistics, the team that, hit 10 3-pointers yesterday, just the second time they've done that all year. And the only other game that you could really even debate was that Notre Dame game. But this team shot in the second half alone,